The Galactic Council's arrogance. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, the Galactic Council reigned supreme. Composed of the most advanced and powerful civilizations, the Council saw itself as the ultimate authority, the guardians of order and stability across the stars. For millennia, they had watched lesser species rise and fall, content in their role as distant overseers. When humanity first ventured into the galactic stage, the Council barely took notice. To them, the Terran Empire was just another upstart civilization, a young and naive race stumbling into a universe far beyond their comprehension. They watched with amused condescension as humans spread to nearby star systems, establishing colonies and forging alliances. But as the Terran Empire grew, so did the Council's unease. Human technology advanced at an alarming rate, their ships becoming faster and their weapons more powerful. The Council's spies brought back reports of human ingenuity and adaptability, of a species that thrived in the face of adversity. In the grand halls of the Council's capital, the leaders of the galaxy's most powerful races convened. They spoke of the Terran Empire as one might speak of an unruly child, a problem to be corrected. The Council had faced such challenges before, and they had always emerged victorious. The decision was made swiftly and unanimously. The Terran Empire would be given an ultimatum: submit to the Council's rule or face the consequences. They would demand that humanity surrender its fleets, its worlds, and its people to the governance of the Council. It was a routine exercise of power, a reminder to the galaxy of who truly held authority. The Council's ambassadors, resplendent in their ceremonial robes, arrived at the Terran Empire's capital with great fanfare. They strode through the halls of power, their chins held high, secure in the knowledge that they represented the galaxy's supreme authority. Before the Terran Emperor and their assembled court, the lead ambassador delivered the Council's ultimatum, his voice dripping with condescension. In the name of the Galactic Council, we demand that the Terran Empire submit to our rule, he declared. You will surrender your fleets, your worlds, and your people to our governance. Refuse, and you will face the full might of the Council's armies. The Terran Emperor, a tall and stern figure, listened impassively as the ambassador spoke. When the Council's demands had been fully articulated, the Emperor rose from their throne, a glint of defiance in their eyes. The Terran Empire bows to no one, the Emperor said, their voice calm but firm. We will not surrender our sovereignty, not to you, not to anyone. If the Council seeks to impose its will upon us, they will find that humanity does not yield easily. The ambassadors sputtered with indignation, unused to such blatant defiance. They warned of the consequences, of the Council's vast armadas and unrivaled might. But the Terran Emperor stood firm, and with a wave of their hand, dismissed the Council's delegation. As the ambassadors departed, the Galactic Council seethed with anger. The Terran Empire had dared to defy them, a mere upstart race challenging the established order. The Council's leaders vowed that humanity would pay for their insolence, that the full might of the galaxy would be brought to bear upon them. Little did they know that the Terran Empire had been preparing for this moment for generations, that even now, humanity's greatest minds were working tirelessly to ensure their species' survival. The Council had underestimated humanity's resolve and ingenuity, and they were about to learn the true depths of human determination. Terran Empire's covert preparation. For decades, the Terran Empire had watched the Galactic Council with wary eyes. They had seen the Council's oppressive rule, the way they subjugated lesser species and crushed any hint of dissent. The Terran leaders knew that it was only a matter of time before the Council turned its attention to humanity. In secret, the Empire began to prepare. They sent their best spies to infiltrate the Council's ranks, to gather intelligence on their technology, their tactics, and their weaknesses. Terran scientists worked tirelessly to reverse engineer advanced alien technologies, adapting and improving upon them. In hidden shipyards and research facilities across the Empire, a new generation of warships and weapons were developed. Sleek and deadly, these vessels were designed specifically to counter the Council's armadas. Powered by advanced fusion cores and equipped with particle beam weapons, they represented the pinnacle of human ingenuity and determination. But the Terran Empire knew that technology alone would not be enough to defeat the Council. They needed the support and unity of their people, a sense of common purpose and resolve. The Terran Emperor, a visionary leader known for their charisma and strategic brilliance, began to lay the groundwork for the coming conflict. In a series of rousing speeches, the Emperor rallied the people of the Empire. They spoke of the Council's arrogance and oppression, of the need to stand firm in the face of tyranny. They invoked the great triumphs of human history, the moments when the species had overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. "We stand on the precipice of a new era," the Emperor declared before a vast crowd of Terran citizens. "The Galactic Council believes that they can dictate the fate of our species, that they can crush our spirit and bend us to their will. But they have forgotten the true strength of humanity, the indomitable will that has carried us from the depths of our homeworld to the stars themselves." As the Emperor's words echoed across the Empire, a sense of unity and purpose took hold. In every corner of human space, people rallied to the cause. Scientists and engineers redoubled their efforts, working around the clock to perfect the Empire's arsenal. Soldiers and pilots trained with a newfound intensity, knowing that the fate of their species rested on their shoulders. But the Terran Empire did not only rely on its own strength. They reached out to other species who had suffered under the Council's rule, forging alliances and coalitions. Together, they planned and plotted, sharing intelligence and resources, united by a common goal: to overthrow the Council and forge a new galactic order. As the preparations neared completion, the Terran Emperor addressed the Empire one last time. In a somber tone, they spoke of the challenges ahead, of the sacrifices that would be required. But they also spoke of hope, of the unbreakable spirit of humanity, and the allies they had gathered. "We go now to face the greatest threat our species has ever known," the Emperor said, their voice ringing with conviction. "But we do not go alone. We go with the strength of our people, with the might of our technology, and with the support of all those who have been oppressed by the Council's tyranny. Together, we will prevail." With those words, the Terran Empire stood ready. The Council had issued their ultimatum, expecting submission and capitulation. Instead, they would face a humanity united and determined, ready to fight for their freedom and their future. The stage was set for a conflict that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The Empire strikes first. In the depths of space, a Terran fleet moved with silent purpose, comprised of the Empire's most advanced warships and crewed by its bravest men and women. This armada represented the culmination of years of preparation and sacrifice. They were the tip of the spear, the first strike in a war that would determine the fate of humanity. At the helm of the flagship stood Admiral Nera Velos, a veteran commander known for her tactical brilliance and uncompromising resolve. As she gazed out at the sea of stars before her, she felt a sense of calm determination wash over her. She knew that the coming battle would be the greatest challenge of her career, but she also knew that she and her crew were ready to face it. The first target of the Terran offensive was a heavily fortified Council outpost, a strategically vital waypoint that served as a hub for the Council's military operations in the sector. The outpost was protected by a formidable array of defenses, including a network of sensor arrays, energy shields, and weapon platforms. But the Terrans had a plan. For months, their spies had been infiltrating the outpost, gathering valuable intelligence on its layout and vulnerabilities. Armed with this knowledge, Admiral Velos and her fleet approached the outpost with a daring strategy in mind. As the Terran ships entered the outpost's sensor range, they activated their advanced stealth systems. Powered by a combination of metamaterials and quantum field manipulation, these systems rendered the Terran vessels virtually invisible to the Council's scanners. By the time the outpost's defenders realized that something was amiss, it was already too late. In a coordinated strike, the Terran fleet unleashed a barrage of high-energy particle beams and antimatter torpedoes. The outpost's shields, designed to withstand sustained bombardment from conventional weapons, buckled under the onslaught of exotic energies. Within minutes, the once formidable defenses lay in ruins, and the Terran ships moved in to secure the outpost. The news of the Terran victory spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The Council, long accustomed to unchallenged supremacy, was stunned by the swiftness and audacity of the attack. In the grand halls of their capital, the Council's leaders convened in an emergency session, their faces ashen with shock and disbelief. But the Terran offensive was far from over. Even as the Council scrambled to respond, Admiral Velos and her fleet were already moving on to their next target. In a series of lightning strikes, the Terrans hit key Council installations and supply lines, crippling their ability to coordinate and respond effectively. The Council's fleets, once the terror of the galaxy, found themselves outmatched and outmaneuvered at every turn. The Terrans' advanced weapons and tactics, honed through years of covert preparation, proved devastatingly effective. In battle after battle, Council ships were destroyed or forced into retreat, their crews left demoralized and confused. As news of the Terran victories spread, other species who had long suffered under the Council's rule began to take notice. Emboldened by the Terran success, they too began to rise up against their oppressors. Across the galaxy, a wave of rebellion and defiance began to swell, fueled by the hope and inspiration that the Terran Empire had kindled. Back on the Terran homeworld, the Emperor addressed the people once more. In a voice filled with pride and determination, they spoke of the bravery and sacrifice of the Terran fleet, of the blow they had struck against the Council's tyranny. "Our warriors have shown the galaxy the true strength of humanity," the Emperor declared. "They have proven that we will not be cowed, that we will not submit to oppression and injustice. But this is only the beginning. The road ahead is long and fraught with danger, and we must be prepared to face it with unwavering resolve." As the Emperor's words echoed across the Empire, the people of Terra steeled themselves for the battles to come. They knew that the Council would not take this defeat lightly, that they would marshal all their vast resources to crush the Terran rebellion. But they also knew that they were fighting for something greater than themselves, for the right of all species to live free from tyranny and oppression. And so, with courage in their hearts and fire in their eyes, the Terran Empire pressed on, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had struck the first blow, but the war was far from over. The galaxy would tremble before the might of humanity, and the Galactic Council would learn the true meaning of defiance. The Galactic Council reels. In the wake of the Terran Empire's devastating strikes, the Galactic Council found itself reeling. The once mighty rulers of the galaxy, accustomed to unchallenged dominance and the subservience of lesser species, were now faced with an existential threat unlike any they had ever encountered. As reports of Terran victories continued to pour in, the Council's leadership descended into a state of panic and disarray. In hastily convened meetings, they argued and debated, casting blame and recriminations at one another for their failure to anticipate the Terran threat. Some councilors advocated for an immediate counterattack, insisting that the full might of the Council's armada be brought to bear against the Terran upstarts. Others, more cautious, argued for a more measured approach, warning that the Terrans' advanced technology and unconventional tactics could not be easily overcome. Amidst the chaos and confusion, a growing sense of fear and uncertainty began to take hold among the Council's member species. Many began to question the Council's ability to protect them, and whispers of rebellion and defection began to circulate. In a desperate attempt to regain control of the situation, the Council's supreme leader, a shrewd and ruthless individual known as Zoran, called for a summit of the galaxy's most powerful factions. In a grand assembly hall, the leaders of 100 different species gathered, their faces etched with worry and apprehension. Zoran stood before them, his voice booming with authority and determination. "The Terran Empire has dared to challenge the established order of the galaxy," he declared. "They have struck at the very heart of our power, and they have done so with a savagery and cunning that we cannot ignore. But let me be clear. The Council will not be defeated by a pack of upstart primates. We will crush this rebellion, and we will make an example of the Terrans that will echo throughout the ages. But even as Zoran spoke, many of the assembled leaders regarded him with skepticism and doubt. They had seen the reports of the Terrans' victories, had witnessed the fear and uncertainty that now gripped the Council's ranks. They knew that defeating the Terran Empire would be no easy feat. Behind closed doors, the Council's military leaders scrambled to devise a strategy to counter the Terran threat. They pored over the intelligence reports, studying the Terrans' weapons and tactics, searching for any weakness or vulnerability that could be exploited. But the Terrans had been thorough in their preparations. Their technology was unlike anything the Council had ever encountered, and their tactics were unconventional and unpredictable. The Council's generals, accustomed to waging war against lesser species with predictable strategies and inferior weapons, found themselves at a loss. Desperate for any advantage, the Council turned to its vast network of spies and informants, tasking them with infiltrating the Terran Empire and gathering any intelligence that could be used against them. But the Terrans had anticipated this move, and their own counterintelligence operatives worked tirelessly to root out and neutralize any Council spies within their ranks. As the Council struggled to mount an effective response, the Terran Empire continued to press its advantage. In a series of daring raids and surprise attacks, Terran ships struck at key Council facilities and supply lines, further eroding their ability to wage war. With each passing day, the Council's grip on power grew more tenuous. Across the galaxy, long subjugated species began to rise up, emboldened by the Terrans' example and the Council's apparent weakness. What had begun as a localized rebellion was quickly becoming a galaxy-wide uprising, a revolutionary wave that threatened to sweep away the old order and usher in a new era of freedom and self-determination. Faced with this growing threat, the Council's leadership became increasingly desperate and erratic. Some advocated for extreme measures, such as the use of forbidden weapons of mass destruction or the indiscriminate slaughter of civilian populations. Others, seeing the writing on the wall, began to secretly negotiate with the Terran Empire, hoping to secure a favorable position in the new galactic order that seemed increasingly inevitable. But through it all, the Terran Empire remained resolute and unwavering. They had known from the start that the Council would not go down easily, that the road to victory would be long and fraught with hardship. But they had also known that their cause was just, that they were fighting not only for their own freedom, but for the freedom of all species who had suffered under the Council's tyrannical rule. And so, even as the Council scrambled to shore up its defenses and mount a counterattack, the Terran Empire pressed on, its warriors and citizens united by a common purpose and an unbreakable resolve. They knew that the greatest challenges still lay ahead, but they also knew that they had the strength and the determination to overcome them. The galaxy would be forever changed by their struggle, and the name of the Terran Empire would be forever etched in the annals of history as a beacon of hope and defiance in the face of oppression. Terran ingenuity and resilience. As the war between the Terran Empire and the Galactic Council raged on, it became increasingly clear that the Terrans possessed a level of ingenuity and adaptability that the Council had severely underestimated. Despite facing an enemy with vastly superior numbers and resources, the Terrans continued to hold their own, thanks in large part to their technological prowess and unconventional tactics. In the research labs and engineering bays of the Terran Empire, teams of brilliant scientists and engineers worked around the clock to develop new weapons and defensive systems to counter the Council's ever-evolving strategies. They drew upon the knowledge and expertise of not only their own species, but also that of their allies, creating a vast network of innovation and collaboration that spanned the stars. One of the most remarkable examples of Terran ingenuity was the development of the quantum shield.